Welcome to Black and Gold Digital Edition, a behind-the-scenes look at your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hi, and welcome to Week 9 of our digital show. I'm Jay Puskar alongside Mike Fenner and Kent Urbanski. And guys, what a huge victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've said that quite a bit over the course of the regular season. They are now 7-0. They come back and they beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. And Kent, your thoughts on just the way the Steelers started off and then the way they finished?
Well, I remember last week talking about turnovers being the key to victory. And when you make the league MVP turn the ball over 4 times, that's going to give you some success. But they could have easily slipped away with that as well at the end. Well, you know, they're probably 1 turnover away from losing that game, but good teams find a way to win, especially on the road, and the Steelers did that.
And Mike, that run defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers has been outstanding all season long, but they were certainly tested, and if not, we saw a little chink in the armor the way the Ravens were able to run the football, but it was a defense that bent but didn't break.
You could say that, but you could also say this is the most unique rushing offense in the league because it is designed to run the football more than anybody in football. I mean, Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position might be the most effective running quarterback in the history of the game. So you're going to give up your yards, but like Kent said, they made enough plays at the end of the game, and even with those takeaways, it was close, it was tight, but you know, you're going to give up some plays in the run game. They still were able to come out on top, and it's a huge statement about what they've done against the league's leading, the league leader in rushing, and then the team leader in rushing in consecutive weeks. To come up with road wins at both those teams, that's really a huge statement.
I think also there, though, too, the Steelers are such a blitzing team that it allows for big chunk run yardage like that. So they probably learned a little bit from that game, and you know, hopefully when they face them again, they'll cut that down. But you know, the Ravens aren't done and out of anything. When like Mike said, they run the ball so well. I look for them down the road when the weather turns bad, things get cold. They're still going to be there.
And guys, about 3-4 weeks ago, we talked about this upcoming schedule where they were at home against the Cleveland Browns, and then they had the 3-game road trip coming up, which will finish in Dallas on Sunday. And everyone was saying, man, if they can get a split, if they can get a victory in Tennessee, and maybe if they lose in Baltimore, it's not the end of the world, or maybe if they, you know, have those roles reversed. Here they are. They were able to get those 2 victories on the road. I mean, that's got to speak volumes for this team moving forward with a much easier schedule down the road, Kent.
Well, yeah, I mean, you'd like to say that, but then you know, how many times last year, you know, you go to a team that's 1-6 and you're in a dogfight with them. So, you know, no team in the NFL, in my opinion, is a gimme. You have to go there, you have to show up, and you have to play 60 minutes of football. And I'm still waiting for the Steelers to put 2 halves together. I hope they do it down here in Dallas.
And Mike, that's usually their kryptonite too, is that they just tend to play down to the competition. They always play really well with the likes of the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Patriots, but when it comes to the less inferior teams, they tend to struggle. If anything, they get off to slow starts, and then it makes it very interesting down the stretch.
That's why all these stats have been so fascinating to follow at the start of the season, the 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0. It's like, yeah, this is rare territory because over the last decade or so, you've seen so many of these games go that way early in the season in September or October, where it's you know, maybe in Oakland on the road or something like that, where it's a game that, well, we're supposed to win this game, and then it just doesn't go that way. So yeah, there's a reason to be a little bit not worried, but just, you know, you want to go into this game and be prepared, execute the game plan, and you can't be so concerned about what's on the other side or not on the other side with the Dallas injuries and what their personnel looks like. You got to be more concerned about your own game plan, your own team, and how you guys prepare for the game. So it's a game on paper they absolutely should win, but like you said, it's like a gravy game now because you didn't anticipate necessarily being in this 7-0 position, and now this is a great opportunity to continue to put everything together and put 2 halves together, like Ken said.
And guys, the trading deadline came and went in the National Football League, and the Steelers making another move as they were able to send a draft pick over to the New York Jets. They pick up linebacker Avery Williamson. And Kent, your thoughts on the Steelers making another trade deadline type of move? We've seen it where they were able to pick Minkah Fitzpatrick up. It's really paid off really well. The thought of an addition to Williamson coming to this roster, a veteran linebacker, and he's already familiar with this system, according to head coach Mike Tomlin.
Right. No, I think it's purely for depth. I don't think he's coming in to replace Robert Spillane because I think Spillane's been doing a great job. But I think he's added depth to that roster that in case of injury or even as the as the year progresses, Spillane, might wear down a little bit, and you've got some rotation here now that can fill those gaps and help that team down the road. Not necessarily, right away, but down the road when they might need that added depth.
Mike, your thoughts on the move?
Yeah, I think he could go in and plug in and be a guy that earns his way into the starting lineup. I'm not sure where they'll go on that move, but again, it's a great problem to have if you've got two guys that are competing and are healthy and helping each other out, and just having guys that can rotate in and out and trade those snap counts. So either way, I think it's a win, because if you have him as a backup guy, as a depth guy, in case of injury or in case of fatigue, you've got a guy there that knows the system. But I think he's got high upside, and he was dealing with injury problems with the Jets, but was a solid player earlier in his career, just a few years ago, really not that long ago, playing for Dick LeBeau in that Titans defense, a familiar system, a similar system to what Keith Butler and company are doing. So I think it's a solid play.
All right, guys, the Steelers are on to Big D now to wrap up that 3-game road trip. They're taking on Dallas. This is a Dallas team that has just been riddled with injuries. They're one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to games missed by players that have suffered injuries. Meanwhile, the Steelers are one of the healthiest teams going into this matchup. And how dangerous could this be, as far as we already discussed it earlier on, that this could be a trap game, that the Steelers go down there and just not really get it going? Any concerns going into this matchup, Kent?
Not really, only that maybe they turn the ball over and give them field position to let them stay in the game. But I would love to just see them go down there and put the hammer down right away, build up there. I think they're 14-point favorites right now, so I'd like to go see them put a few digits on them and rest some of those starters. They don't have a bye, so build up a decent lead and start mixing some guys in there and getting some of those starters out to get them rested. And
Mike, just talking to people that cover this team on a regular basis, they all say that the Steelers just show up, they should win, and that's what the feeling is. But it's going to be a different story, at least from a professional level. The coaching staff won't allow that to happen. They got to go in there prepared and ready to go.
It's true. The only way they can really mess this thing up is if they do give Dallas short fields because of turnovers, because Ezekiel Elliott, without great quarterback play, is struggling mightily. They are struggling to run the football. They've got receivers, but they don't have a guy that can get it to them, and their offensive line protection has been great either. So you lose Dak Prescott for the year, you lose Andy Dalton to the concussion, now COVID. I mean, you got Ben DiNucci, a third-string guy who was a Pitt transfer, to James Madison, who struggled mightily on Sunday night under the lights. You got Garrett Gilbert, the former Cleveland Browns quarterback. I mean, they just don't have a lot of options at QB. And so if Pittsburgh can avoid those turnovers and those just costly mistakes that they haven't really fallen victim to so far, if they can continue that trend, they shouldn't have any problem getting out to a lead and holding on to it.
Finally, guys, 8-0 when it's all said and done?
I think so. Yeah, this is a good football team, and unless they go down there and beat themselves, we're looking at 8-0 and coming back home with a 3-game sweep. Where like you said, a lot of teams were, or a lot of people were looking for them to even split games, but here they are. I think they go down and win this one, and win it easily.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I don't see how it happens otherwise. So 8-0 first time. If not, I guess we jinxed it, but I think it's good to go.
A lot of Zeke. Zeke right, Zeke left, Zeke up the middle.
Yeah.
And just stop the run.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, as always. For Mike Fenner and Kent Urbanski, I'm Jay Puskar. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for watching. Join us again next week for Black and Gold Digital Edition.